Okay, so for this step, we're gonna work on the aft leg. So I'm gonna use the NURBS tool, and I'm gonna start with the control point curve as I always used. And I'm gonna place my first point here. I'm gonna press Shift and lock it along the Z direction. And that means I'm gonna be tangent that way to the axis in the Z direction, basically. So I'm going to place my second point about here, third point, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and maybe eighth point. So about 8 points, all right? And again, I'm just going to use the gumball, select my control points, just move it around a bit, maybe just to make sure. It's always a good habit to go in the curvature graph on, turn it on, and just change the scale. So you can see here, there's a knot. So I'm just gonna, and here definitely you can see a knot here and a knot here, all right? So it's not the end of the world. Again, I'm not saying that systematically you need to completely redefine your sketch, but I want you to develop the habit on how to understand and read the curvature graph, basically. So I'm going to go under the fillet curves and go and find the rebuild curve. And yeah, I'm going to make it maybe 5. So I'm going to create still multi-span, okay? I don't need to make it all the time single span, because in this case, I need about 8 control points to describe this curve. So I'm going to say, okay, 9, well, let's try with 8 control points. So degree 5 with 8 control points. So the deviation is only 100th. And I'm just going to press OK, and there you go. I got rid of all these little spikes. So it's a nice transition. And then you can refine it even further by moving around the control points. All right, so I can do that. And I'm going to do the same on the aft portion. So I can use the smart track, by the way. So I'm going to click on Smart Track just to show you how I use it. And I'm going to make sure that endpoint on the snapping toolbar is checked. And I'm going to bring my cursor at the end of this curve. And it's hard to see because of the background. But if I zoom out, you can see this gray line. It's a horizontal vertical line. And I can travel along that vertical line. And that means that this endpoint of my curve is perfectly aligned with the first curve. And now I can left click and just press it. And then I'm just going to press Shift and left click to make sure that whoops, I'm making a straight line. So I have to redo this. So I'm going to use the curve tool. I'm going to snap to the end like this with the smart track on. And then I have this virtual line. And I'm going to start about here. So I left click to place my first point. And then I'm going to press Shift and left click to place my second point. And then my third point and so on. So I'm going to do this fairly quickly. And I can do the same here with the smart track on and endpoint on my snapping toolbar. I snap to the endpoint of that curve and then I can travel along that line. And that means I'm nicely aligned at the extremities like that of my curves. So now I can select this and I'm going to do curvature graph on again. And I'm going to clean it up. So I'm going to do a rebuild curve. So 5/8 is not bad, and it's only 7 thou. So I'm click OK, and there you have it. Maybe I'm just going to move this point and see if, yeah, make it a bit more progressive like that. It's always nice. All right, I can remove my curvature graph. There you have it. So I know that the extremities are lined up. Well, I have to make a little footnote. Whenever you rebuild, you saw that there was a slight deviation. So that maybe because there was a slight deviation, maybe it's not perfectly lined up anymore, okay? So there's another trick. I can select this curve and this curve. And I'm just going to select these 2 control points at the extremity, okay? So just select the 2 control points at the extremity, and you can type the function set point if you want to reset them to the same height. So SETPT for set point. And now we've got this middle menu that shows up, set points. And you look at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you know that the direction upwards is the Z direction. So I'm just going to uncheck the X and Y direction and just have the Z direction checked. So align to world, and I'm just going to click OK. And now you can see that I can move these two control points and they're going to be perfectly lined up. So that's one way of making sure that, well, it's another way of making sure that your control points are nicely lined up. So if I want to do the same here at the bottom, you know, I just turn on the control points of these two curves at the extremities and I type set point. And again, because I'm in the Z direction, I don't need to check anything. I just want to make sure that the Z direction, and you can see that now, that's what it looks like. And you can position anywhere you want. It's always going to be lined up, but I'm going to make it like this. There you go. So I wanted to show you this function, set point, S-E-T-P-T in the command line. So now that I've done that, I'm going to draw a line that's going to snap in point to point, from endpoint to endpoint, I mean. So this endpoint and that endpoint. Sometimes I find it annoying having the smart track all the time, so you don't hesitate to turn it off at the bottom of your screen, okay? And then I'm going to use now my snapping toolbar, snap endpoint to endpoint like that. So now I have a nice closed curve and it's perfectly planar. Again, I want to emphasize on the fact that at the bottom of the screen, make sure that planar is always checked. It's going to save you some headaches, all right? I'm not going to go into the details. I've already explained in my other tutorials what it's for. But you know, whenever you start a project, I highly recommend that you have planar on, and it's going to save you some annoyances. So I'm going to join all this together like that. All right, so now I know that my curve is perfectly planar, and you can always double check it, you know, by going into the perspective view. I'm just going to hide my background images, and you can see that it's perfectly flat. All right, so this curve I don't need. I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to position it first. So I'm going to just move it and align it about here. All right, and it's just a matter of doing an extrusion. So I'm going to do, because it's a closed curve and it's planar, I can always go to the menu, solid, extrude planar curve, straight, and you see that I'm extruding in either this side or that side, and you can definitely have the option both sides equals yes, and you give a uniform thickness on either side, and I'm just going to give it about the same width as my front legs, something like that. All right, so I've done that, and now what I want to do, I want to create a sort of small pocket. Typically in aerospace, they always try to CNC parts as much as they can. So it has to be very thin and very lightweight. All right. Weight for an airplane is obviously super important. So you will see many times where there's CNC involved trying to go and get as much materials as possible while maintaining the structural strength. So let me see. Did I hide my curve? Shade. Okay, I don't know what happened. Oh no, there it is. Okay, there's my curve. Okay, so I'm gonna put myself in the ghosted mode. There's my curve. Okay, I've got my extrusion and I've got my curve. So I'm gonna select my flat curve, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna offset that curve. I'm gonna offset it inwards. So I go in the fillet curve, expand the toolbar, and you've got the function here called offset curve. And you can either offset outside of your curve or inside of your curve. All right, you can definitely type in a distance by simply clicking on the distance, but I like to use this function through point. It's a very dynamic way of doing it. So I'm going to click on through point in the command line, and you can see that you can offset whatever distance you want. So don't make too much of an offset, because you're going to end up with something weird at the bottom of your leg, but you know, something that is maintaining that 4 borders. So something like that, and you just click, and there you have it. There's my offset. Okay, so now that I've created this new curve, I'm just going to move it outside so that we can see a bit better like that. All right, and I'm just going to mirror this on the other side as well. Well, before I do that, I'm just going to extrude it. So solid, extrude planar curve, straight. Yeah, both sides equal yes, that's fine. And I'm just going to bring it, you see the intersection with the primary leg. So I'm just going to maybe do an offset like that, and I'm going to mirror this on the other side as well. So I'm going to do a mirror. So I go to my move tool, right click to expand the toolbar, go and find the mirror, and I'm going to snap in mid in my snapping toolbar, and I'm going to find the mid of that primary leg that I just created, and I'm going to press shift to lock it along the Y direction of my construction plane, and there you have it. All right, just make sure that copy equals yes, and so now you have these two legs that I just created. Now all these three items are solids basically, so I'm going to go to my Boolean union icon, right click to expand it, and again I'm going to use the second icon called Boolean difference, left click. So I'm going to start with the primary leg, so this one, right click, that's my first set of item, and the items that I want to make a difference with, I'm going to select this one, and then right click, and there you have it. I created my pocket. All right, so I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to go to the select all icon. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to do an inverted selection, and I'm just going to click on the light bulb to hide my objects like that. All right, so now I want to start adding some fillet. So I'm going to go to the Boolean union icon again, and I'm going to go and find fillet edges, and I'm going to select everything. Why not? And right click. Obviously 1 inch is way too much, so I'm going to click on set all, and let's try 0.025 for starters. Right click, you can click on preview equals yes, and you have a little preview here. So it's a very small amount of filleting that I've created. I'm going to click on set all, and let's try 0.05 to make it a bit bigger like that, and I just right click. So now it's still a solid, and you know, adding these little fillets is great. Like I mentioned before, when you're about to render, all these little fillets, they make a difference because it captures the highlights and it really describes the volumes, and that's what you need to do. Like, try to make it as crisp and neat looking as possible, especially when you want to do a pretty picture, like for rendering purposes and stuff like that. It's important stuff. All right, so I've done that. Nothing special here, and I'm just going to bring back my background image, and you see these little patterns. I wanted to make it look artistic looking, but also more structurally sound, even though I'm not a structures engineer. You know, using like these triangles, it allows you to save weight by cutting some material, while at the same time theoretically you can maintain some structural strength. But I don't think this is very realistic what I did, but you know, it's just to give the illusion that, you know, you can make something artistic out of a structural item also. Okay, so now I'm going to use geometrical patterns. So I'm going to use the triangle. So I go in my icons in the main toolbar again, in the left hand side where it says polygon. I'm going to pull my polygon toolbar, so I expand the toolbar, and there's one, if I'm not mistaken, let's see, yeah, you click on polygon. So you've got different ways of creating your polygons. So I'm going to click on polygon center radius, for example this one, and I want it to be a triangle, so it's 3 sides. Okay, you can have as many sides as you want. You can have a pentagon, an hexagon, you know, 12 sides, and etc., etc. So you have here number of sides, and make sure that you click on it and you type 3, which is the case for me. And then I'm just gonna, on anywhere in the viewport, just draw my first triangle. I'm gonna press shift. No, I don't. Well, yeah, okay. I'm gonna press shift, and I'm just gonna drag it like this and just size it randomly. So now I want to round off the corners. Maybe I'm gonna try with the fillet curves. So I'm gonna click on fillet curves. I'm gonna change the radius. So here radius equals 4. I'm just gonna change this to a smaller value. Let's try 1 for starters. So I've got join equals yes and trim equals yes. That means it's going to trim the corners, it's going to remove the spikes, and it's going to join it automatically if you have these two options, join and trim equals yes. So I click on one curve, and then I click on the second curve. Now obviously, because my radius is way too big, that's the result I end up with. So I'm going to do Control Z, and I'm going to go back to the initial state. So I'm going to do it again. So fillet curves, I'm going to click on radius, and I'm going to type 0.75. No, 0.75 is too much. Let's try 0.5. 0.5 like this, and that's again too much. Okay, so I guess it's 0.25 then that I need to do. There you go, 0.25. So I'm going to make it 0.25 based on the size of that triangle that I created, and I'm just going to drag it, and using the gumball I'm just going to rotate it and more or less align it, and then I'm just going to press shift and click on the handle of my gumball to scale 2D and just move it approximately like that. So if I want to do a mirror of this, I can always do that. So I go in the move function, go and find the mirror tool. I'm going to snap in near with my snapping toolbar, and I'm going to find the near at this edge and that edge, and I've done a mirror like this, and then I can move it about here, and I'm just going to scale that a bit bigger like that. And then I'm going to do another mirror. I'm going to find this, so I snap in near and I find this edge and that edge. So basically I'm defining the axis by following the edge of my triangle, and then I press shift and do a scale 2D to resize it like that. Now I'm going to show you something else. It's called the pop-up toolbar. So if you press the middle mouse button, you may have noticed this little toolbar showing up, and by default you've got the minimum icons here. Now if you want to make your pop-up toolbar, modify your pop-up toolbar, what you have to do is bring your cursor on the gray band here that you see here. You just left click on it, and now you see the title called pop-up. Okay, so this is a great way to customize and increase your productivity. So I'm just going to expand my toolbar, and if I bring any of these commands on the left hand side by pressing the control key, you can see that it says copy link. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring some of the functions that I use often. Just as an example, well, I already have the mirror here, so I'll show you how I did this. If I expand the toolbar for my move tool, and I press the control key, you've got here the copy link above the, when I hover above the mirror icon, and then you can, while you maintain the pressure on the control key, you can drag and drop into the pop-up toolbar, and there it is. Now you have to be careful, because if you press the shift key, you see here it says, if I press shift on either one of these icons, it says move edit. So this is a one-time change. Yeah. So if I press shift, for example, and I go back to this icon here, and I just drag it outside, you can see that there's a little delete. So if I do that and release my fingers from the keyboard, it says OK to delete toolbar item, and I click yes. All right. So just as a reminder, if you press control key and you drag and drop into the pop-up toolbar, you're making a copy of the icon, whatever function you want to drag into the pop-up toolbar. And if you want to get rid of it, you press the shift key and you drag it into the viewport, and it's going to ask you if you want to delete the item. Okay, so there you have it. So yeah, don't hesitate to start using the pop-up toolbar. That way it's going to increase your productivity instead of always going back and forth into the left main toolbar, left hand side main toolbar. So I'm going to press the middle mouse button. Here's my mirror function, and I'm just going to mirror it like this and just drag. Now you don't need to execute every time the mirror function, because if you just right click or press enter, it's going to execute the last function that you've launched, which is the mirror function. So I just right click and it says select object to mirror. So I select this one and right click, and there you have it. So I can drag this one over here. I'm going to rotate it slightly because the leg is curving. So I'm just going to move it like this. And I'm going to use the mirror again. Whoops, undo, right click, mirror. Let's drag this over here. So I'm going to go a bit faster now. It's always the same thing. Press shift for scale 2D. So it's a great way to practice. I mean, the only way to really get good at anything in life, you have to repeat it over and over and over and over until it becomes like automated. So now I'm just going to scale this. And the last one, like this, scale 2D, there you go. So let's say that we have that and we're happy with it. Actually, I'm going to add a circle as well while we're at it. So I'm going to use the circle tool on my main toolbar on the left hand side and just draw a circle, something like that. So now I'm going to select all of these items, these curves, like that. And if I go in the perspective view so that you can see, so it projected on the symmetry plane, my ZY plane basically. So I can bring this with the gumball here. You can do a solid extrude planar curve. So let's do that. So solid extrude planar curve straight. And yeah, instead of both sides equals yes, I'm going to say both sides equals no and just go and extrude. So make sure that it goes all the way through. I'm just going to hide the background image. And again, I'm going to do a Boolean difference. So go and find the Boolean difference. First item that I want to make a difference. Enter, and then select all the items that you want to subtract from. So I'm going to select them one at a time, right click, and there you go. So theoretically you should end up with a solid, as you can see here. And again, I'm going to select in the Boolean union, under the Boolean union icon, I'm going to select the fillet edge, and you see, well, yeah, it's kind of tedious, you know, to select all these one by one. So what I'm going to do, maybe I'm going to put myself in the left viewport and I'm just going to draw a box while making sure that I'm just selecting only the edges for my triangles and the circle. Make sure that you don't choose anything from the like, okay? So I did a box selection like this. It should go on both sides, as you can see. All right. So I can click while I have the fillet edge function executed, launched, I should say. In parentheses, I've got preview equals yes. So I'm just going to right click. It's set at 0.05 for the radius, which is not bad because it's right next up against this edge here. So I don't want to make it too big, but you know, round it enough so that when you render it, it's going to capture the highlights. So once you're happy with the size of your fillet, you just right click again. And there you have it. So now I've got a nice close solid. All these curves, once again, you can either put them into a layer and just hide the layer, or in my case, I'm just going to delete them. I don't think I'm going to go and revisit these patterns. All right, so now I just right click on the light bulb to bring back everything together. I'm going to take this leg, no, not this curve, this leg, and I'm going to do a mirror. So I use the pop-up toolbar by pressing the middle mouse button in 0, and there you have it. So this is for the rear leg, and I'm going to add a few more details in the next chapter and do the seat rail. So the seat legs are, especially the rear legs, they are fixed into the seat rails, while the front legs also, and these seat rails are bolted into this, the floor beams underneath the floor to make it structurally sound and safe. All right, so there you go. The rest, it's still very easy to do, but I'm going to do it with you guys, and then we can start thinking about preparing the model for rendering. Definitely, you know, for example, there are little details. So you can see here, for example, my cushion that is clashing with my seat structure. So don't hesitate to modify a bit your model. So I can use the gumball for my seat cushion and use the handle to do 1D scale to bring it more inside like that. So there's a bit of, you know, fine-tuning, retouching that you need to do. Don't hesitate to do that. You can play with the vertices of your sub-D model as well and move them one by one if you wish, or the faces. And that's the beauty about sub-D models. But I wanted to show you how using sub-Ds and NURBS tools combined together, it works great, you know. It works. It's awesome that Rhino 7 finally has this. So there's another detail in the back that I want to block it off. I'm going to use a sub-D model for that. And you know, it's the fun part, in my opinion, to add all these little details and the fine-tuning. Try to make it as realistic. For example, you can see that the legs, there's something weird here, so you need to do some touch-ups, basically. But the main design is here, you know. You know, it's all about capturing the design intent, and that's what matters the most. All right. So I'll leave you at doing the detailing and the seat structure, and I'll see you for the next video. Thank you.